The moment I opened my banking app, my stomach dropped. Every single dollar in my account gone. All my savings, all the money I had worked for over the years, vanished in an instant. I looked up at my brother-in-law who was leaning casually against the kitchen counter. A smug smirk stretched across his face. "We needed it more," he said, as if that explained everything. "If this shocks you, stay with the story. Only gets crazier. Just hours ago, I had been at a family reunion surrounded by laughter, hugs, and the kind of smiles that hide secrets. Everyone acted so cheerful, pretending the past didn't exist, pretending nothing had been broken in our family. I had gone there with hope, thinking maybe time had softened the edges of betrayal. But nothing had changed. Not my sister, not my brother-in-law, not the people who had always looked down on me. I gritted my teeth as I tried to steady my shaking hands. My savings weren't just numbers, they were proof of my independence, proof that I could survive on my own, that I could be more than the family who had always underestimated me. And now, in a single move, it was all gone. I stared at him. How could you?" I whispered, disbelief and rage colliding in my chest. He shrugged, as if stealing my life savings was nothing more than taking candy from a child. "You always think you're smarter than everyone," he said. "But we needed it more than you did. Maybe now you'll understand." I wanted to scream. I wanted to fight. But I froze instead. Because deep down I realized this wasn't just about the money. It was about control, about humiliation, about showing me exactly where I stood in their world. But they had no idea. They had no idea I had been planning for years, quietly, secretly, building a life they could never touch. They thought they were clever. They thought they had power. They were about to find out how wrong they were. I closed the app and took a deep breath. Tonight, I wouldn't cry. Tonight, I wouldn't beg. Tonight, Allison would take the first step toward making them regret underestimating her. The anger in my chest burned like fire as I left the house, pretending calm while every step echoed with determination. The family reunion had been a carefully staged show, and I realized just how deeply they had planned to humiliate me. My brother-in-law's smirk replayed in my mind, taunting me with every detail of the money they had stolen. But this wasn't the end, it was the beginning. For years I had quietly built a network, investments, and a side business no one in my family knew about. They thought I was weak, careless, even incapable of managing my life. But every insult, every joke, every glance of pity had been fuel. And now, fueled by their audacity, I was ready. Lucas, my business partner and only confidant, was waiting outside in his car. "Are you ready?" he asked, glancing at me with that calm, unwavering confidence that always grounded me. "I've been ready my whole life," I replied. "They just gave me the reason to move faster." I explained everything I knew, how the funds were transferred, which accounts were involved, and how my brother-in-law had left digital traces he thought I wouldn't notice. Lucas nodded silently, impressed but not surprised. "You've been patient," he said. "Now it's time to use that patience as leverage." By the next morning, I had initiated a series of moves that no one in my family saw coming. Frozen accounts, legal notices, and the quiet beginning of a full-scale business exposure. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to confront them in front of anyone yet. Every action was calculated, invisible, and devastatingly effective. Meanwhile, my sister texted me, pretending concern. "Allison, are you okay? This is getting out of hand." I smiled at the screen. She had no idea she was already in the web I had been spinning for months. She thought I would panic. She thought I would beg. She thought I was powerless, but the truth was far worse for them. The daughter they underestimated, the sister they mocked, was quietly taking control. Every move was precise. Every twist would hit them where it hurt the most. That night, as I watched the city lights from my apartment window, I realized something important. I wasn't just taking back what was mine. I was about to show them the consequences of underestimating Allison, and the lesson would be unforgettable. The next morning, the silence in my apartment felt heavier than ever, but not because I was scared, because I knew what was coming. Before I even checked my phone, I sensed the storm had already reached them. And when I finally looked, The panic was written all over their messages. My sister had texted 10 times. Allison, what's going on? Why are our accounts locked? Can you please call me? This isn't funny. For a moment I just stared at the screen. The same sister who had stood beside her husband while he mocked me. The same sister who pretended the theft was a misunderstanding. Now sounded like she couldn't breathe. A small, cold part of me enjoyed that. Lucas called me right after. Everything's moving exactly as planned, he said. Your BIL is trying to call the bank, but the fraud flags you triggered are locking every attempt. Good, I replied quietly. Let him feel it. Let them all feel it. By noon, I received an email from my attorney confirming that the investigation had officially begun. Every transaction my brother-in-law touched, even ones unrelated to me, was now under review. They thought stealing from me would be easy, but they didn't know who I had become behind the scenes. They didn't know I built my empire on silence and precision. Around the same time, my mother called, her voice shaking. Allison, honey, there's some problem with your sister's accounts. She said you might know something. I paused. She expected the old version of me, the one who always forgave first, questioned later. I know exactly what happened, I said calmly, and I'm handling it. Allison, please, don't destroy your family over a misunderstanding. I almost laughed. Tell her to explain the misunderstanding she smirked about. There was silence. A long one. That's when I knew the truth had finally seeped through every room in their house. The reunion was over, the pretending was over, and the excuses were over. Later that evening, Lucas and I reviewed the next steps. My stolen savings were already being reversed, but the real twist was something my family still had no clue about. The deeper investigation that would expose everything my brother-in-law had done for years. You're sure you want to proceed with the full audit? Lucas asked. They took everything from me, I said. So yes, I want the truth exposed. I could feel that this was the moment the entire story flipped. The girl they robbed, the girl they mocked, the girl they expected to suffer quietly was the one holding every card, and the night hadn't even brought the real shock yet. The one that would end everything they built to hide. The call came just after midnight sharp. Frantic knocking on my apartment door, followed by my sister's trembling voice saying my name like a prayer she never believed in. For a second, I didn't move. I just stood there, listening to the panic she once enjoyed watching in my eyes. Now it was hers. When I opened the door, she looked nothing like the woman who smirked beside her husband while he drained my account. Her hair was a mess, her breathing uneven, and her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold her phone. Allison, please. Everything is collapsing, she whispered. They froze all of our accounts. They found transactions we didn't even know about. They're saying he might face charges. I said nothing. I just stepped aside and let her walk in. She dropped onto my couch like her entire body had given up. Tears streamed down her face, and I didn't recognize her, not because she had changed, but because guilt looked unfamiliar on her. Allison, I'm begging you. Please stop this. The kids... They can't lose their father. The kids didn't steal from me, I replied softly.
He did, and you protected him.
She covered her face with her hands. I swear I didn't know he transferred your money. I swear. He said you wouldn't mind. He said you owed us because you make more. That line, you owed us, burned through me like fire. I owed them nothing, not my silence, not my success, not my suffering. He took everything from me. I said quietly. He looked at me like I deserved to be robbed. That night he told me we needed it more, as if I was nothing. She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, her phone lit up. It was her husband's number. The moment she answered, his voice exploded through the speaker, furious, scared, desperate. What did you do? He yelled. The auditors are saying someone reported everything. They're pulling emails, messages, transfers from the last 5 years, Ava. Do you know what that means? She froze. 5 years? Her eyes shot to mine, wide and horrified. Allison, what did you do? She whispered. I told you, I said. My voice steady, calm, final. I handled it. Her husband kept shouting, his fear growing with every word. Now he wasn't a man smirking at a family reunion. Now he wasn't a hero in his head. Now he wasn't laughing about how they needed the money more. Now he was cornered. She ended the call with shaking fingers. He says the agents might come tomorrow. Allison, please stop this before it's too late. I got up and walked toward the window, watching the city lights shimmer like they were waiting for my answer. It's already too late, I said. For him, my sister's breath caught. She knew it was over, not because I wanted revenge, not because I sought destruction, but because I refused to be the one they stole from, mocked, and dismissed ever again. This was the ending they wrote the moment they touched what was mine. And tomorrow, they would face the final consequence one. None of them ever saw coming. The next morning arrived with a silence so sharp it felt like the world was holding its breath. I woke up before sunrise, not from fear, not from anxiety, but from a calm certainty that the final chapter was already unfolding. By the time I made coffee, the message came. The investigation is complete. All stolen funds have been returned. Additional illegal transfers have been documented. Charges will be filed. I read it twice, slowly. Not because I doubted it, because this was the moment everything turned. At 9:14 a.m. My sister called again. The second I answered, I heard the chaos behind her voices. Doors opening, heavy footsteps. They're here, she whispered. Please. Allison, please say something. I already did, I replied. I said no one steals from me again. Then I heard another voice in the background, her husband's, loud, panicked. This wasn't the man who'd smirked at me. This wasn't the man who said, we needed it more. This was someone realizing his entire life had just cracked open. My kids are crying, my sister sobbed. Allison, please help us. For a moment, I felt something twist inside me, not guilt, not regret, just the weight of understanding. They never thought about my pain, my fear, my tears. They thought I was alone and powerless, but that was their mistake. And today, they were paying for it. I didn't destroy your family, I said quietly. He did, the moment he drained my account. There was a long, broken silence on her end before she whispered, we never knew who you really were. That's because you never cared to look. I answered. Then the line cut. Just like that, it was over. Later that afternoon, my lawyer sent one final update. The funds were safely transferred back to me. The case against my brother-in-law was moving forward, and my name was cleared completely. I stepped outside, breathing in the cool air, feeling lighter than I had in years. The world looked different, not because it changed, but because I wasn't the quiet sister at the family reunion. I wasn't the girl people stole from. I wasn't the easy target they thought I would always be. I was the woman who rebuilt herself in silence and turned that silence into power. And as I walked down the street, head high, heart steady, one truth echoed inside me. They didn't just lose my money, they lost access to me forever, and that was a price they could never repay.